I'm a beta. I've been married to an S-class alpha for 2 years. But Joseph has never touched me. I always thought it was because he looked down on me for being a beta. Until one day, I suddenly developed mind-reading powers. I found out that the calm on Joseph's face was all just an act. In his head, he was thinking, "Baby smells so good, ugh, still 2 more months before his reproductive system matures. I just want to kiss him so badly." 1. The moment I heard those wildly inappropriate thoughts, the cup in my hand slipped and shattered on the floor. Joseph frowned and said coldly, "Don't move. Step back." But what I heard in his mind was, "Baby's so clumsy, better step back a bit, don't want him getting hurt." I was so startled I instinctively took 2 steps back. I think I really did get mind-reading powers. I could hear Joseph's thoughts. This was just insane. Joseph and I got married because of an arranged match made by our grandparents. I'm a defective beta with an atrophied reproductive cavity. Everyone said I wasn't good enough for Joseph, and over the 2 years we've been married, he's never tried to get close to me. I thought he found me disgusting. But now, my entire worldview is collapsing. The man in front of me still looks just as cold and intimidating. His slightly upturned eyes give him a harsh expression. He stared at me deeply. And yet I could hear him screaming inside, "Ugh! Baby looks so cute when he's stunned." I blushed and turned my head slightly to avoid his gaze. He bent down to pick up the broken cup, wrapped the shards in a plastic bag, and tossed it into the trash can. Then he leaned in a little closer to me. He grabbed the collar of my shirt to straighten it, his calloused fingers gently brushing against my neck. And in his mind, he sounded like a little gremlin who couldn't shut up. Baby looked so obedient while getting his collar fixed. So white, that neck. I want to bite it. I barely managed to escape from his hands. Tonight was a family dinner, and I had to attend it with Joseph. But every time there's a gathering like this, they always find some way to mock me for not being worthy of him. And I am a defective beta. After all, I watched Joseph calmly adjusting his cuffs, exuding an intimidating aura. That's the natural dominance of an S-class alpha. Then I heard his inner voice again. "My baby's secretly watching me, so cute. Why do we still have to wait 2 months before his reproductive cavity matures?" My chest tightened a little. A defective beta isn't supposed to be able to get pregnant. To stimulate reproductive cavity development, you'd need hormone injections. But as far as I could remember, I'd never received any such injections. So, where did Joseph's expectations come from? With a nervous heart, I followed him into the house. The whole way there, Joseph looked stone cold on the outside. But in his head, it was like he'd turned into some kind of obsessed fanboy. I kept edging further and further away from him, and he just kept getting more and more sulky. It's easy to imagine what would happen if my reproductive system actually did mature. Especially since an S-class alpha's rut period lasts at least 2 weeks. But now, I think I've discovered Joseph's secret. He might actually like me, too. I really don't get how a defective beta made it this far. Don't be fooled just 'cause he's a guy, he's got plenty of tricks up his sleeve. Joseph had barely stepped away from me when the snide whispers started, loud enough for me to hear clearly. I quietly moved away, pretending not to notice. I picked up a small pastry from the table and sat silently in a corner. A group of stunning Omegas clustered around a particularly refined-looking young man as they walked past. He was an S-class Omega, Samuel. The one everyone said was a perfect match for Joseph. Smirking, Samuel pointed proudly at the Omega in the tailored suit and said, "This is an S-class Omega. That defective beta should step aside already." In the past, hearing things like that would crush me with shame. But now, even if I wanted to step aside, I don't think Joseph would let me. I slowly took a bite of the matcha cake in front of me. The Omega who'd mocked me first clearly wasn't happy about my silence. He slapped the plate of cake from my hands. Clatter. You mute or something? Got a genetic defect that broke your tongue? I stared at him coolly. Unfazed. That's when Samuel stepped in to smooth things over. You've gone too far. Jackson. Sorry about that. He said softly, though his expression betrayed zero sincerity. For the first time. I fought back. If you want me to step aside, why don't you try getting Joseph to say so first? Even if he had to choose a defective beta, he still wouldn't choose any of you. Maybe it was Joseph's inner thoughts earlier that gave me the courage to speak like this. Such a remarkable alpha, likes me. Samuel's face darkened. One of his hangers-on raised a hand. Clearly ready to teach me a lesson. But before anything happened, I heard Joseph's inner voice. Full of fury. My baby's being bullied. Every single one of them deserves to pay. I looked up, Joseph was already staring at them. I hadn't felt that upset before. But the moment I met his eyes, tears welled up. Yeah. I was a little upset. Joseph stepped in front of me, shielding me gently as his gaze swept coldly across the group. Samuel batted his lashes and tried to shift the topic sweetly. You're here. There's an investor meeting coming up. Anne. Joseph cut him off mid-sentence. His tone like ice. We're ending all partnerships with your family. And the rest of you, take care how you behave. He took my hand in his. Thinking. If you want to work with me, you'd better learn to respect my spouse first. I looked up at his tall, commanding figure. Through hiccups and tears, I mumbled a complaint. Joseph, they said I'm genetically defective. He stopped walking and gently brushed the corner of my eye. And I heard the ache in his heart. His eyes are all red. What genetic defect? He's mine. He's my baby. Out loud. He only said, if anything happens, tell me directly next time. But in his heart, he was thinking in detail. No wonder he's always so down after these events. I hesitantly wrapped my fingers around his, slowly closing my whole hand around his. Joseph's face stayed perfectly calm, but it was like his brain froze. And in his head, I heard him internally scream. Ah! He's holding my hand. So cute, God. I really love him. I couldn't help but smile to myself. Seems like Joseph might like me even more than I thought. That night, I was woken up by a voice. Baby looks so cute when he's asleep. I want to sleep with him so bad. Startled, my eyes flew open. Joseph was standing beside my bed, face completely still. A loud clap of thunder flashed outside, lighting up the obsession in his eyes. Baby's awake. What do I say now? If he finds out I stand here every night just to sneak a kiss, he's gonna be terrified. Every night? I stared at him, flustered and nervous. What are you doing here? Joseph immediately said. It's thundering. I got a little scared. But his thoughts were very different. Baby's definitely gonna let me sleep in his bed. I'm so pitiful. We were married, but we'd never shared a bed. Even on our wedding night, he chose to sleep in the study. That's why I'd always thought he couldn't stand me. I didn't respond right away, torn between doubt and hesitation. But his thoughts kept flowing straight into my ears. Why hasn't baby invited me yet? I'm hurting here. Ugh. If I hadn't been so scared of hurting him on our wedding night, we'd have slept together a long time ago. I froze. Still a bit scared. Honestly. A pent-up alpha after 2 years, who knew what he might do? Seeing me stay silent, Joseph seemed to realize I was refusing him. His expression turned stiff, lips pressed into a line. Is that okay? He asked. Voice quieter now, tinged with hurt. I sighed. All right. I patted the space beside me. Joseph slowly climbed into bed, keeping up his usual calm demeanor. But inside, he was celebrating like crazy. Baby cares about me. Baby's worried about me. I love him so much. When he's fully mature, I'm gonna kiss him until he forgets his own name. I stiffened up. That was something I'd been unconsciously trying to ignore. A beta's reproductive cavity only matures with external hormone stimulation. And I knew for a fact I'd never taken any hormone injections. The only thing I did was go to the clinic every week for routine checkups. Each time, the doctor would inject me with a so-called nutrient shot, saying it was to replenish missing elements in my system. It started with 3 shots. Then 2. And now just 1. But if those had been hormone shots all along, then it made perfect sense. A wave of panic surged inside me. I knew Joseph wasn't really the obedient husband he pretended to be. He was an S-class alpha with a powerful possessive streak. If my reproductive system matured, it would mean, even though I'm a beta, I could be fully marked by him. Emotionally, physically, I'd never be able to leave him again. I shivered at the thought. My eyes fell on Joseph's long, lowered lashes. Would he really love me, forever? I couldn't help but think of my mother, abandoned by the alpha who had marked her. In the end, they even removed her gland. I didn't dare take that gamble. So I skipped my nutrient shots for the past 2 weeks. But then something went wrong. Without those hormone supplements, my pheromones started going out of balance. I actually entered heat. Something only omegas are supposed to experience. 4. Ever since I started hearing Joseph's thoughts, I couldn't help but want to keep my distance. Because his thoughts always took a turn toward the R-rated. They made my face burn. The first week I skipped the hospital appointment. Joseph specifically reminded me, we don't need to worry about money. Your health comes first. But in his heart, what he was really thinking was, without those hormone shots, baby won't mature. I really want baby. I blushed. What on earth was Joseph thinking every day? I nodded, brushing it off by saying I was too busy. By the second week, when I still hadn't gone, Joseph started getting suspicious. Did baby find out? He'll be mad. Wah. My poor supplements, baby's gonna hate me. At that moment, we were sitting at the dinner table, having dinner. I was quietly chewing my broccoli while listening to his conflicted inner voice. Baby's so cute. Ugh. I kind of regret hiding it from him, but if I don't, he'll never agree. He kept switching between justifying himself and feeling guilty, occasionally breaking into little bursts of praise for me. Meanwhile, I was starting to feel hot. A deep, unbearable itch spread from my gland. Joseph's thoughts were pouring in rapidly, and I suddenly slammed my chopsticks on the table. Stop thinking like that. Joseph looked at me, startled. But the very next second, I heard, baby smells so good. Is this a heat cycle? I slapped a hand over the back of my neck, over my gland, and scrambled away from the table. Because Joseph, that shameless alpha, had already released his pheromones. I'm going back to my room, don't follow me. Does baby really think covering it will stop his scent? So cute, smells like peaches. So sweet. I shot him a glare and ran straight to my room. Just as I was closing the door, a large hand stopped it, like a ghostly force had pressed against it. Already weakened from the heat, I didn't have much strength to resist. Joseph easily pulled me into his arms. His thoughts were screaming. I touched baby. Baby's so soft, I want to do this, and that. Smells amazing. On the surface, though, his face remained completely serious. You seem to be in heat. As your legal husband, it's my duty to help relieve it. I stared at his self-righteous expression and smacked him across the face, not hard, but enough to show my irritation. I yelled at him, frustrated. Whose fault do you think this is? And now you're pretending to be all proper. I could faintly smell Joseph's pheromones, a mix of herbs and wood. My mind was starting to go fuzzy. I barely registered his whisper near the crook of my neck. Baby, don't be mad at me. Something about the way he said baby sounded so different. So strange. I pressed a hand against his chest. Joseph leaned in until his cheek was brushing mine. Can I kiss you? His thoughts were howling. Baby, please kiss me, kiss me, kiss me. I snapped coldly. Shut up. Joseph's eyes drooped instantly, looking pitiful. I looked up and kissed him square on the lips. He froze, stunned, but only for a moment. Then he deepened the kiss. He locked eyes with me, gripped the back of my neck, and pressed down hard. I tried to pull away, but his grip was too strong. Our lips clashed roughly. He even tried to slip in his tongue. His pheromones were wrapping around me, and my legs nearly gave out. I could feel my gland burning with waves of heat. I felt like I was losing myself. I clung to Joseph's neck, panting. Mark me temporarily. I saw a flicker of light in Joseph's eyes, followed by a thought loud and clear. Baby, I love you so much. The next second, his mouth was on my neck. His alpha fangs brushed gently against my not yet fully mature gland. A strange sensation completely overtook me. I let out a strange sound I couldn't control. Hurry up, stop dragging this out. I had no strength left. I could only lean on Joseph for support. Like a puddle, I clung to him, my mind flickering with flashes from childhood. But the temporary mark didn't seem to help much. I hugged Joseph tightly, trying to absorb more of his pheromones. In desperation, I started tugging at his clothes. I could only feel the warmth of his skin under the fabric. It smelled so good. I couldn't get enough. I bit at his skin. His rough breathing and wild thoughts merged into one. Baby's being so forward, wah. I love him. I want to devour him. I stared into his eyes, and the heat inside me flared into something uncontrollable. What are you waiting for? Do it. Joseph suddenly pinned me to the wall. His gaze was dark and intense. Can you see clearly now? Who am I? His face burned into my memory. Joseph, my husband. And I heard his frenzied thoughts. Even if baby begs me to stop, I won't. In the still of the night, the air trembled. 5. The next morning, I dragged myself out of bed. Joseph had one arm around my waist. Naked. I looked at the scratch marks all over his body and tried to sit up. When I turned my head, I met his gaze. There was a wolfish glint in his eyes, and he was thinking, I want more. If we do it again, will baby break? I grabbed a glass of water and scooted away from him. I was done. Alphas really weren't human. I glared at him. Why don't you ever listen? I told you to stop. Joseph slowly scooted closer and hugged me. Baby, I'm sorry. Next time, I'll do whatever you say. Okay. I won't say just one more time ever again. I blushed. Stop calling me baby. But what he was really thinking was, I'm totally gonna do it again. Out loud. He said, okay. I won't call you that anymore. How about, honey? I gave him another glare. His mind melted. Baby looks so cute when he glares at me, wah. Seeing the smug look on his face, I decided to get serious. Tell me the truth, why did I go into heat? Joseph drooped like a scolded puppy, head hanging low, saying nothing. But his thoughts gave him away completely. How could I tell him? Betas can't be fully marked. And that makes me insecure. Only an Omega who can be marked gives me that lifelong guarantee. I'm awful, but I just love him too much. Hearing that, my eyes slowly widened. Joseph, an S-class alpha, was actually insecure because I was a beta? A strange feeling bubbled up inside me. But it was clear Joseph had no intention of confessing. I quietly got up and started getting dressed to leave. The next second, he gently grabbed my pinky finger. Baby, don't go, I'll tell you. Okay. He looked at me with eyes full of mist. Was Joseph possessed or something? When did he become so shameless? I pulled my finger back and tried to mentally prepare myself. I'll think about forgiving you. It was now beyond obvious that Joseph liked me. But how long would this last? I didn't know. A sense of unease always hovered around me. But then again, I could hear his thoughts. Whether he liked me or not, I'd always know. And if the day ever came when he stopped liking me, I'd be ready to walk away. 6. Maybe it was karma for getting too comfortable. Life had to throw something big at me. Starting the next day, I could no longer hear Joseph's thoughts. It felt like a temporary gift had been taken back just as suddenly as it came. But Joseph had become much more expressive. He loved kissing me everywhere around the house. And he was constantly showering me with compliments. Baby, you're so cute. How can anyone be this good-looking? So soft. Baby. Sometimes I couldn't take it and would lightly slap his cheek. But that only made him hold me tighter and kiss me deeper. Even more crazily. Every night when he came home, he'd bring me flowers and pout as he begged. Baby, can you just finish the last 2 Omega hormone injections? Please become my Omega. My heart was always wavering. Did I really want to become a full Omega? And then, the change happened. Since I was little, happiness had always been short-lived for me. This time was no different. Joseph's mother came knocking at our door. She was a textbook Omega and had always wanted Joseph to have a child to carry on the family line. But I was a beta, I couldn't give Joseph children. She'd always disliked me and used to belittle and undermine me behind Joseph's back. The moment I saw her face at the door, I had a bad feeling. Sure enough, she walked straight in, sat herself down on the couch, and opened with, "Jackson, divorce Joseph. How can a beta like you have the nerve to be with my son?" By all logic, she wouldn't have made such a blunt demand unless she thought she had leverage, because she knew Joseph wouldn't agree to it easily. But today, she came in swinging. Something was off. I looked at her arrogant posture, and a small sense of smugness flickered in my chest. You want me to leave Joseph now? That's even less likely than before. Then she spoke with complete confidence. Did you know? Joseph has found his perfect Omega match. I froze. A perfect Omega, someone with a 100% compatibility rate. That's what people call a fated bond. No matter what, they'd be drawn to each other. Everything would feel like it had a magical glow. Once they meet, their pheromones will react instinctively. They'll just know they're meant to be. I tried to steady myself. I should trust Joseph. I had to believe in his love for me. So I shook my head and told her calmly, I won't divorce Joseph. Unless he brings it up himself. Her expression immediately darkened. Jackson, can you stop being so selfish? Do you have any idea how much you've made my son suffer as a beta? Every time his rut comes around, Joseph has to take 5 suppression shots just to get through it. And now he's developed resistance to them. Why can't you think about him for once? She kept going. And besides, that perfect Omega is working at his company now. Feelings are bound to grow between them sooner or later. You might as well leave first, better than being dumped later. I had never heard any of this before. All I knew was that Joseph disappeared for a week every 6 months. I had even wondered why an S-Class Alpha didn't have a rut period. Seeing I didn't respond, she pressed on. A perfect Omega bond would help Joseph recover significantly. Just divorce him, you two were never a good match. Her words struck at my heart again and again. Maybe I was being selfish for clinging to my own happiness. I sat there, stunned for a long time. By the time I snapped out of it, she was already gone. The afternoon sun beat down on my back, but it couldn't warm me. I felt completely lost. Sitting on the sofa, waiting for sunset, Joseph would come home after that. But that night, Joseph suddenly messaged that he was going on a business trip. I stared at the dark sky outside, and finally broke down, sobbing out loud. In the blur of my emotions, I saw memories of my childhood. 7. In that haze, I saw my mother, back when she was still an Omega. They had been very much in love at first. Everyone used to call them the perfect couple. But alpha love fades, fast. When I was 5, my dad got drunk and hit her for the first time. Pheromones are the most terrifying thing in the world. My mother could never fight back against my father's abuse. Every time they argued, all he had to do was bite her. And my poor Omega mother would collapse, her legs going weak, melting into a helpless mess. I saw it too many times. My father was a cruel alpha. It was like every toxic alpha trait had been poured into one person. Even after he cheated, he wouldn't let her go. She would just stare at me, time after time, whispering the same words. One day, you'll become a beta. Be free. Be yourself. I remember coming home from school one day. The house was dark. The curtains were drawn. I saw blood trickling from her neck. A pair of scissors glinted nearby, stained with bright red. Following the blood trail, I saw a small, disgusting chunk of flesh. It was still, pulsing slightly, like it was alive. And then I saw my mother, with a gaping, bloody hole. She looked at me with a peaceful, almost happy expression. Baby, mommy's finally free. The sound of machines beeping pulled me back to reality. I opened my eyes, dazed. Bright lights filled the room. Joseph was gripping my hand, his eyes bloodshot. He stared at me, voice trembling. Jackson, are you okay? Are you in pain? I looked at his worried face. He really was handsome. His long lashes always made him look affectionate. His nose straight, and his lips cool and serious. I reached up and touched his face. For a moment, I thought, maybe this was our most peaceful conversation yet. But I remembered my mother's last wish. I couldn't become an Omega. I refused to follow the same fate. I turned my head slightly and swallowed before speaking. Joseph, let's get divorced. I can't become an Omega. And I can't forgive you for modifying my body without my consent. Joseph said nothing for a long time. The air went still. I looked over at him. He was crying. Tears quietly streamed down his face, soaking his lashes. He held my hand tightly, his warm tears dripping onto my skin. I gently pulled away, staring at him firmly. Don't hold on to false hope. If my beta hormone levels don't return to normal, I'll undergo surgery to remove my glands. Joseph, tall and strong as any S-Class Alpha, hunched over with his broad back curled inward. He pressed his forehead to my hand. Voice muffled with sobs. Jackson, please. Let's not get divorced. You don't have to become an Omega. Stay as a beta, just don't leave me. But I still shook my head. Deep down, I had always known, the way the world worked was simple. A strong alpha was supposed to be with a strong Omega. There would be a perfect Omega out there for him. If Joseph stayed with me, how would he get through his rut cycles? And truthfully, I was tired. Tired of society's constant doubts about our mismatched marriage. Tired of facing the overwhelming possessiveness of an S-class alpha. When I recover, let's get divorced. Joseph's face turned ugly in an instant. He grabbed a doctor, practically dragging him over. His voice was trembling as he explained. Jackson, you can recover. I'll never hide anything from you again, okay? But I already knew the truth. That wasn't the real issue. The real problem was my lack of security. I still shook my head. In the end, Joseph stumbled out of the room, not giving me a direct answer. I stared blankly at the flickering ceiling lights. Maybe I was being a coward. But the truth was, I did love him. I just didn't want him to suffer because of me anymore. Would this decision cost me my chance at happiness? I didn't know. Slowly, sleep crept over me, and I drifted off. 8. The next day, Joseph didn't show up. Only doctors and nurses came in and out, running all kinds of tests. I stared at the ring on my finger, turning it gently. Then I took it off and placed it on the bedside table. Doctor, when will my beta hormone levels return to normal? The doctor looked at me, hesitating to speak. You're pregnant. If you insist on reverting to a beta, we'd have to terminate the pregnancy first, because the child requires omega pheromones to develop. I stared in disbelief and asked. But my reproductive cavity isn't even fully matured yet. How could I possibly be pregnant? The doctor wiped the sweat from his face with a handkerchief and replied. The alpha's hormones accelerated its development. Then he added bluntly. To put it simply, your alpha was too powerful. I was having a child. A child related to me by blood? Should I really bring him into the world, knowing he might go through what I did? But I couldn't bear the thought of losing him. This little life, he'd be the only link between Joseph and me in the future. So I made up my mind. I had to leave. The next day, I returned to our home and quietly packed my things. I left behind divorce papers. Then I vanished without a trace. I couldn't be sure Joseph's love for me would last forever. And I couldn't let my child suffer the same pain I had growing up. I went to a small county hospital, where I finally received the last 2 omega hormone injections. My baby. I'll protect you. By the 5th year of my escape, my child was already 4. I named him Andrew. He looked so much like Joseph, especially those eyes and brows. He was mischievous, always clingy at home, but a little devil out in public. Sometimes he would ask me, Daddy, where's my other daddy? I'd gently wipe his face and coldly reply, he's dead. Maybe it's in his genes. But Andrew was exceptionally smart. He'd just smile and wrap his arms around my neck, saying, all right, I've got you and that's enough. But I knew deep down, he still longed for his other dad. I remember one time, when Andrew came back from kindergarten, he asked, can we go find Daddy? Everyone says I don't have one. My heart clenched. Daddy's in heaven. We can't go there. That summer, during his 5th year, Andrew insisted on visiting City A with his little backpack. He didn't throw a tantrum, just cried softly. Daddy, please take me. I want to see the world. I looked into those big teary eyes. So much like Joseph's. Anne. I gave in. I took Andrew and boarded the bus to City A. In my heart, I still clung to a bit of wishful thinking. What were the chances of actually running into him? Joseph was so busy, it seemed impossible. 9. And yet, we did. Thankfully. I was wearing a mask. Andrew pointed toward Joseph from a distance and asked softly, "Daddy, why does he look so much like me?" "Oh, sweetheart, it's you who looks like him." I quickly covered his mouth and picked him up, whispering in a panic, "Don't say a word. We're leaving." Andrew stared blankly at Joseph as I tried to make a quick getaway. But before I could, someone grabbed my arm. An older woman's furious voice rang out, "Help! Someone call the police. A child kidnapper." I looked down. Yes. I was holding a child in my arms. Sure. I had a mask on. But come on, I'm clearly a well-dressed, decent person. How did this even happen? The problem was, Joseph was nearby. I immediately put Andrew down and tried to get him to speak up. By then, a small crowd had already gathered. Andrew quickly spoke up to clear the air. "This is all a misunderstanding, he's my daddy." The crowd fell silent for a moment. I tried to wave it off and walk away with Andrew. But just as we broke through the crowd, we were met with a pair of reddened eyes. "Andrew, are you leaving again?" My entire body froze. I stood there speechless. Andrew looked from me to Joseph. Then he suddenly shouted, "Daddy! Is this the other dad you said went to heaven?" Joseph looked at Andrew and said softly, "So you really did have the child? You kept the baby but not me." And just like that, the powerful CEO started sobbing in the middle of the street. Mortified, I dragged him to a quiet corner. "What are you crying for? How's your perfect Omega working out for you?" Andrew chimed in with righteous fury. "So it was you who betrayed my daddy. You should go to hell, not heaven." I quickly slapped a hand over his mouth and whispered, "Little mouth." Andrew pouted and replied obediently, "No more talking." Joseph only cried harder. "Andrew, I don't have an Omega. You misunderstood me. Why would you believe what that awful old woman said? You don't love me at all." Woo! From the moment he saw me, Joseph hadn't stopped crying. I wanted to pull away. "Joseph, we're not married anymore. I need to go." He gripped my hand tightly. "You can't go, I never signed the papers. You're still my husband." Andrew's big eyes darted back and forth between us. "Daddy?" Joseph squinted at him, then reached out to ruffle his hair. "Son." Ah! Such a touching father-son moment. Since they were getting along so well, maybe it was time I handed Andrew over. I turned to leave, but Joseph pulled me into a hug, his tear-soaked face brushing against my ear as he pleaded softly, "Andrew, please don't go just yet. Give me another chance." It had been a long time since I'd felt his pheromones. I could feel pain and desperation in them. I said nothing, just quietly followed him with Andrew in tow. Back at our old home, I realized nothing had changed. Joseph looked at me and said, "Sometimes I pretend you never left." I handed Andrew to the housekeeper, patting his little face. "Andrew, be good. Daddy will come get you soon." After Andrew was gone, Joseph took out a contract. In bold letters, the title read, "Organ Ownership Agreement." I read it carefully. Party A voluntarily agrees to assign ownership of their gland to Party B, granting full authority to Party B for all related matters. His name was already signed under Party B. I looked at the thin stack of papers, my voice trembling slightly. Does the Bureau even allow organ ownership contracts like this? Joseph cupped my face. smiling with those gentle eyes. It's legally binding. Baby. If you can't trust an alpha's lifelong love, then erase my gland the moment I fall out of love. Deal? The warmth on my cheek reminded me, I was crying. Big, heavy tears slipped into Joseph's hands. Okay. I hesitated a little longer before asking. What about the perfect Omega? And your mom? Joseph licked away my tears, replying coldly. That old hag? I sent her to South Africa. She liked that Omega so much. So I sent him there too. Last I heard, he settled down over there. Baby. Are you jealous? HM. I turned my head away and mumbled. Not even a little. 10. Later. I did come clean about the time when I could hear his thoughts. He rolled over and pinned me down, smiling playfully as he said, "Wanna give it another try now?" I rolled my eyes at him. You mean the part where you used to sneak kisses at my bedside like a ghost every night? He wrapped his arms around my waist and rubbed his cheek against mine, pretending to beg for mercy. Nope, no need to practice that again. Just then, Andrew came bursting in from the living room and jumped straight onto our bed. Daddy. Papa. Stop being lazy and get up. I pulled the two of them into a hug, a small smile tugging at my lips. Sunlight streamed in through the window, warm and gentle. No matter what the future holds, the love we share will never change.